So, the challenge I've given myself today isn't that easy. Garth Snow, GM for the New York Islanders. I know I'm wearing flames, but go with it. So let's review his trades, shall we? Okay, he got Eric Boganicki for Ryan Caldwell. Let's just go with a win and a loss and I don't know. So that's a whatever. He got Freddie Meyer and a third or second round pick, which became Mark Kadek for Alexei Zhitnik. I'll give that a win because Zhitnik's career in Philly was short. Mike York goes to the Flyers for Randy Robitaille and a fifth round pick that became Matt Martin. Based on that pick, that's a win. Thomas Malik for Kolska. That's a whatever. Dennis Grebeshkov goes to the Oilers for Marc-Andre Bergeron and a third round pick that became Petrov. It's a whatever. It's a tie. Second round pick that became Ted Ruth for Richard Zednik. Well, Zednik actually played NHL games, so I'll give that a win. He traded Robert Nelson, Ryan O'Mara, and a first round pick that became Alex Plant for Ryan Smith. That's a win. He traded Dave Fortier and Ralph Stewart to the Canucks for cash. Never heard of either of them, but it's not a loss. So there's a pattern here. Look at this. 4-0-4. Starting to look like the Senators here, isn't he? So let's take a look at some more. God, he's got a lot of trades here. All right. Alan Rourke and a third round pick that became Karel Petrov traded to the Oilers for Travis Hamonic. A draft pick that became Travis Hamonic. He traded Petteri Nokalainen to the Bruins for Ben Walter and a conditional pick. It became Kevin Lynch. Nokalainen wasn't a key guy for the Bruins at any point. Daryl Bootland for Matt Keith. Yeah, that's a whatever too. Chris Simon to Minnesota for a sixth round pick. He got rid of Chris Simon. I'll give that a win. He traded a seventh round pick, which became Jason Demers for Rob Davison. That's a loss because of what Demers became. I know that doesn't seem fair, right? Because it was a seventh round pick, but there you go. Marc-Andre Bergeron for a third round pick that became Kirill Petrov. What did they have with that 2008 third round pick? Bergeron wasn't a key guy for the Ducks, so I'm not going to give him a loss there. Colin Wilson. It's a first round pick that became Colin Wilson for two picks that became Josh Bailey and Aaron Ness. Bailey's still with the Islanders, so I'll give him a win on that one. Traded a first round pick that became Luke Shen for that pick that became Colin Wilson that got moved. Sean Lalonde and Matt Clark. I gave him a win on this one. I'm going to give him a tie because that's just how that worked out. Then he traded the Sean Lalonde pick for Jyrki Niemi and David Ulstrom. Yeah, minor loss. I know Lalonde became a better prospect than the other two. Brett Skinner traded to Atlanta for Junior Lassard. That's a whatever. Dean McCammond and a 2009 first round pick that became Carl Palmieri for Campoli and Comrie going to Ottawa. He didn't keep the Palmieri pick. Comrie was almost done at that point, so I'll give him a win because that first round pick became a better player. Bill Guerin was acquired by the Penguins for a fifth round pick, which became a better pick. Anyways, Michael Lee was the one that ended up being drafted. I'll go with a loss, and I understand that this is a deadline deal, but Guerin was still better than the guys he got back. Nick Leddy, Matt Hackett, and Eric Holla, all the draft picks traded for Calvin DeHaan. That's a loss. That number 12 pick wasn't worth $16, $77, and $181. And then he acquired the number 16 pick for which was Nick Leddy and Matt Hackett, for Carl Palmieri, Matt Clark, Anders Nilsson, and Casey Zizekas. What the hell? What's with the draft picks? Then the Islanders acquired the Anders Nilsson and Casey Zizekas picks for Kevin Lynch, going back to Columbus, so they win that. Pick a card, any card. Anyways, it's starting to feel like magic here. Jason Clark for Michael Lee, that's whatever. Rights to Tony Romano for Ben Walter and futures. Rob Haniger and for Bobby Hughes. Yeah, that's a whatever too. Greg Moore for Dylan Reese. That's whatever. And Brett Westgarth for future considerations. It's funny, future considerations doesn't come up very often anymore. I don't know if they're allowed to do them or if they just gave up on that whole thing. But you used to see it a lot. There was a lot of future considerations trades. Second round that became Kent Simpson for Andy Sutton. That's a soft. Sutton wasn't a key guy anyways for Ottawa. Tanner Lane, a 6th round pick for Yuri Niemi. Not Ante, Yuri Niemi. Second round pick for Brock Nelson's 1st round pick. Yeah, Nelson's been pretty good, so that's a win for the Islanders. Brent Kitchen for McFall and Lane. That's a soft. The 2 guys traded away, didn't make the NHL, and Kitchen ended up going back into the draft. Andre Padan, draft pick, acquired for 4th round pick that became Silas. Well, Padan never played for the Islanders, so I can't give him the win on that one. Wisniewski acquired by the Islanders for a 3rd round pick, which became Cramarosa. Yeah, I'll give that as a win too. James Wisniewski was then traded to Montreal in December of that year for draft picks that became Johan Sundstrom. And there was another conditional pick that never panned out. So Wisniewski wasn't really a key guy for Montreal. I can't give him a loss on that one. Then he traded Dwayne Rolison for Ty Wishart. That's a loss. Rolison was the better player. I know he was older, but he was still the better player. Draft pick acquired by Arizona was Andrew Fritsch, and the Islanders acquire Montoya. I'll give him a win on that one. The comment section under this is going to be hilarious. Future considerations acquired for Bernard Jervis. That's a loss. Didn't Gervais play for a while for Tampa? A 4th round pick for Christian Ehrhoff. That's a non-factor because he didn't sign with the Islanders. They were acquiring his rights. Yeah, 2 days later they traded those rights away to Buffalo, who then signed him. So that's a non-starter as well. Trent Hunter for a 2012 conditional pick, which was never met. So that's not a big deal. Trent Hunter didn't really play for New Jersey. David Taves, acquired by the Hawks for future considerations. I haven't seen Taves at the NHL level yet. Brian Ralston and Mike Mateau, acquired by Boston for Yannick Riondo and Mark Canton. That's a loss. Yuri Alexandrov, acquired by the Islanders for future considerations. That may have been coming out of that other deal because it was about a month later. But Alexandrov never played anyways. Lubomir Wisniewski for a 2013 2nd round pick. Soft. Tim Thomas acquired for conditional 2014 or 15 pick, and that wasn't met. That was just Boston looking to get rid of him. Mark Streit acquired by the Flyers for a 4th round pick and Shane Harper. I'll give him a win on that one. Because, no. Oh, wait. Crap. I forget sometimes that the purple one tends to be thicker. I'll give him a loss on that one because of what Streit was for the Flyers after they first got him. Cal Clutterbuck and a 3rd rounder for Nino Niederreiter. That Niederreiter deal really, really bit him. So that's a loss. Thomas Vanek acquired by the Islanders for 1st round pick Matt Molson and a 2nd round pick. That's way too much to pay for Vanek. Peter Regan and Pierre-Marc Bouchard for a 4th round pick. That's neither or. That's just dumping off contracts. Andrew McDonald was acquired by Philly for a 3rd round pick, 2nd round pick, and Matt Mangine. Even though I know Flyers fans are going to say, oh, that's too much to pay for McDonald. We don't like McDonald. McDonald's still been a solid NHL defenseman. Thomas Vanek and a conditional 5th round pick goes to the Montreal Canadiens for Sebastian Kahlberg and a conditional 2014 2nd round pick. They really mismanaged the Vanek thing completely. That's a loss. Yarrow Halak picked up for a 4th round pick. That was a win. Halak still playing for him. Nick Leddy acquired by the Islanders in theft from the Blackhawks for Simpson, Brennan, Polka, and Anderson. I remember everybody freaked out like, oh, Ville Polka's gone to Chicago. Oh, this is going to be a big win for them, and Garth Snow's stupid, and yada, yada, yada. Johnny Boychuk acquired by the Islanders for 2 seconds and a 3rd. You know what? That second, one of those seconds became Brandon Carlo. And I know that, so I'm going to make it a soft, because Johnny Boychuk's fantastic, but so's Carlo. Andre Padan for 2016's 3rd round pick and Alex Mallet. That was a win for the Canucks that they got rid of Mallet and they got anything back for him. David Leggio acquired for Mark Lewis. That's soft. Corey Conacher for Dustin Jeffrey. That was a minor league deal. Chad Johnson and a third-round pick. The Islanders get Michael Neuwirth. That's a minor loss, but I'll qualify it as a loss. Tyler Kennedy for a conditional third-round pick. That's a whatever. I don't think the conditions were met. Griffin Reinhart for a first-round pick that became Barzal. That's a major win. Major. That's almost worth 2 points. They also got another draft pick out of it. Michael Grabner to the Maple Leafs for Verhaeghe, Gibson, Nelson, Beck, and Finn. They got a lot of players back, but Grabner was the better player. Taylor Beck was then acquired for Marc-Andre Cliche. That's a soft. That's an AHL deal. Shane Prince and the 7th were acquired for a third-round pick for Ottawa. That's a soft right now. We don't know what that third-rounder in 2016 is gonna mean. Expansion draft considerations were picked up by the Islanders for Bischoff, Grabowski, a first-round pick, and a 2019 second-round pick. That's a lot to give up for draft considerations. That first-round pick, for instance, could be a solid NHLer at some point. Jordan Eberle for Ryan Strome. Absolutely, that's a win. Travis Hamonic for a first-round pick, second-round pick, 2019 conditional pick. They threw in a fourth-round pick to get him. I'm going to put that under the unknown because we don't know whether or not Hamonic's going to be worth it for Calgary or whether or not those players that Islanders got back are better than what they gave up. Godlevskis for Verhaeghe, that really doesn't matter. Let's total it up. 15-16. Wow, 16 and 17. So he's won about half the deals, but remember, the Eberle deal really sticks out here. The Griffin Reinhart deal really sticks out here. Basically, if he makes a deal with Edmonton, he wins. Because there was a Ryan Smith deal, too, that he won. So in trades, he's a winner. But let's look at their drafting. Now, I'm aware I'm wearing Flames gear for this, but bear with me. When Garth Snow took over, this is the reading portion of the test. When he retired as a player on July 2006, he became the 5th general manager of the Islanders, and that was weird. Neil Smith came in and he was manager for like a month. Brian Trottier came in and he left. This was when things were really, really a joke in New York. And that's saying something considering they had just got rid of Mike Milbury. And things became a joke after that. Garth Snow came in and he was actually titled the NHL Executive of the Year his first season in New York, based on the work he did. And if you look at his drafts, he wasn't in the 2006 draft, so I can't include that. But let's take a look at who he's got and who he's skipped over. The entry draft. Oh, that's 2000. Yeah, I want 2007. That was his first draft. That was the one where they moved around a bunch, I think. Nope. New York Islanders. In 2007, they drafted, first pick was 62nd overall, so they traded out that year. And I went through all the trades, so you guys can go back and analyze the trades with those draft picks. So, Kadek, Gregoire, Grachev, Kessel, Lacroix. The only one that made the NHL was Kadich, and he didn't stick around for very long. That's why I keep going back and forth between Kadek and Kadich, because I heard it pronounced both ways. 2008 was the year they draft Josh Bailey. I remember that year they just kept trading down. I'm like, what are you doing? So they traded down out of the number 5 spot, which was Shen. Then they traded down out of number 7, which was Wilson. They drafted at 9th for Josh Bailey. They were high on Josh Bailey. And they drafted a bunch of guys. That year. That was the only first rounder they had. Yeah, then they drafted Trevino. But it's interesting because they drafted a lot. And this is why when teams draft a lot, you should pay attention. So they drafted Bailey. Then they drafted Trevino. Aaron Ness. Travis Hamonic was drafted 53rd overall. Then David Taves. Niemi. Petrov. Matt Donovan, who played in the NHL. David Olstrom played in the NHL. Kevin Poulin played in the NHL. Matt Martin's still there. Jared Spurgeon, 156th overall. And Justin DiBenedetto, who also made the NHL. Doesn't matter how long you make it. When you're drafted 175th overall, that's pretty good. So he did really well that draft. Now, 2009, I don't even need to go look at who he didn't draft, because the interesting thing is all of these guys played in the NHL. Not necessarily for great lengths of time, but they all made it. John Tavares, Calvin DeHaan, Mikko Koskinen, Anders Nilsson, Casey Cizikas, Anton Klementiev, and Anders Lee. Anders Lee was drafted 152nd overall. Every single draft pick in 2009 made the NHL. 2008, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them made the NHL. So while you can be underwhelmed by Josh Bailey, Hamonic was a decent pickup. Martin was a good pickup past 100. Spurgeon was a good pickup past 150. Good drafting. 2010, he drafts twice in the first round. He drafts Nino Niederreiter and Brock Nelson, and I don't need to look at who he passed on because those are both solid players. Now, trading out Niederreiter was a mistake. It was. Kabanov, Clark, DeHart, and Rosen were drafted. Kabanov never made it, but man, there was a lot of hype around that kid. So I don't blame him for taking a flyer on him because there was a lot of hype around Kabanov at the time. 2011, again, I don't need to look at who he didn't draft. Well, I should. That's disingenuous. I should. So he drafts Ryan Strome at 5. Strome wasn't considered a reach at the time, but Scheifele at 7 sticks out. Zibanejad at 6 sticks out. Couturier, Hamilton, Brodin, and then there's a couple of misses before you get to Berchi, who was a miss in Calgary, but then he made it in Vancouver. JT Miller's at 15. So there were a lot of good players there, and Strome became an NHLer, but he's turned Strome into Eberle. So what he's done is he's upgraded that draft pick, one of his mistakes at the draft table. So I can't take Strome out of his list of wins because he turned him into Eberle, who's been better than Strome thus far in Edmonton. Mayfield, Johan Sundstrom, Andre Padan, Robbie Russo, John Person, Brandon Kitchen never made the NHL. They never signed him. He re-entered the draft and was redrafted by Winnipeg. And Mitchell Thierret, who never made the NHL. But that's 185th overall, so that's a reach anyways. In 2012, this is where people are going to, circle the wagons and say, oh, this is where he screwed up. He drafted Griffin Reinhart. But he turned Griffin Reinhart into Matthew Barzal. You starting to see my point here? Yeah, I'm one that gets mad at Garth Snow and he sucks and he should be fired. But when you really look at his body of work, he's not too bad. Ville Polka, he turned Ville Polka into Nick Leddy. In part, Adam Pellich, Loic Leduc, Doyle Summerby, Jesse Graham, and Jake Bischoff. Bischoff, 185th draft pick, was part of how they kept their key guys from getting drafted by Vegas. 2013. This is where you might be able to pick at it because he drafted Pulak, but Pulak's made it. He's ahead of Zadorov, Lazar, Mueller, Reichel, Mantha. Yeah, Mantha's a steal at 20th, but then you gotta basically say about 10 teams made a mistake not picking Anthony Mantha. And I remember Mantha dropping in the draft. I think it was concerned with his skating. Skating or his compete level or both. So in that draft he drafts Pulak, he drafts Eamon McAdam, Taylor Camerata, Stephen Williams, Victor Kruse-Rydberg, Alan Quinn, who at 166th, that's a win, and Kyle Burrows, who hasn't made it, but he was 196th. Now, 2014, you can point out he drafted Dal Cole at number 5, and that's ahead of Virtanen. But then you look down at 8th, and there's William Nylander. So there's a lot of people. I mean, Nylander, if you redid this draft now, would have been drafted 2nd after Ekblad. I think Ekblad would still go number 1 overall. And I think honestly, William Nylander might have been drafted ahead of Draisaitl. I think that could have happened. If you redid the draft right now, I still think Nylander could have edged out Draisaitl. So I'm going to give him a pass on Dal Cole. I am. Ho-Sang gets drafted 20th overall. Rumors about his attitude problems and his defense are why he dropped. And that's why he got demoted. But he's shown some offensive upside. Ilya Sorokin, Linus Soderstrom, who haven't come over yet, but they've said nice things about him. Devin Taves, Kyle Schemp, Lucas Sutter. Drafting a guy with the last name Sutter, that's always worth taking a flyer on that, especially at 200th overall. At 2015, this is where they hit it out of the park. Barzal at 16, Beauvillier at 28. I was wrong about Barzal. 100% absolutely admit I was wrong about Barzal. I said last summer I didn't think he was going to... No, I was wrong 100%. Van de Sample, Parker Wotherspoon, Rich Pylon, Andong Song, Petter Hansen. You know, Barzal's fantastic at number 16. And you look at the draft in 2016, this is as far as I'll go, because you really can't say anything about this past draft. He didn't draft in the first round. That was part of the exchange for not losing key players in exchange for, you know, from the Golden Knights. Kiefer Bellows, who projects to still be a solid NHLer. Golashev, Koivula, Colin Adams, Pasterjov, and David Quenneville. Again, at 200th overall, if you have a guy named Quenneville available, you pick him up. When he took over the team, so we're looking at 05-06, the Islanders were absolutely a joke. They were considered to be a joke, and a lot of that had to do with ownership and just a revolving door. Neil Smith didn't make it, so after 05-06, yeah, they finished with 78 points, 230 goals for, 278 against. His first year as a GM, they turned around to 92 points. Now, they missed the playoffs for the next 5 years, and it's true. Garth Snow had some iffy moves in terms of he brought in Ladd, he lost Okposo. The funny thing with free agents is sometimes it's not a matter of the GM not keeping them as the guy deciding it's time to go. That's why I'm looking at trades and I look at drafts, because when you get into the free agency market, like you look at this summer, they named Luke Richardson an assistant head coach. Brilliant. Luke Richardson is a really smart hockey mind. Scott Gomez is an assistant coach. Good idea. Scott Gomez, while his wheels weren't where they had been when he was younger, he was still a smart player. I never doubted his intelligence. And he seemed like a good two-way guy in his youth. Great guy to bring on. So you have Richardson for the defense. You have Gomez up for the sniping ability up front. And Doug Waite's your coach. And Doug Waite was a fantastic forward in his prime as well. The trades they made in the offseason, Kelly Buchberger's an assistant coach. There's your toughness. The hell of an assistant coaching job they got there. Re-signing Dennis Seidenberg, even though he hasn't panned out yet this year due to, you know, he's getting older. So injuries are going to happen, and, you know, I remember when Boston let him go, I wasn't upset about it because, you know, I felt like he had gotten older and had lost a step. Then last year he was fantastic. So again, you have to credit that to Garth Snow. And, you know, they re-signed Gibson, Pellich, Connor Jones, and Calvin DeHaan. There really isn't anything that I look at the Islanders with and I say, Garth Snow should be gone. And I know I argued that at one point last year, but it was wrong. Garth Snow is a very good GM. And it's hard for me to say it. But you look at the record, he's lost more trades than he's won. But the big trades, the big deals, he usually wins. So yeah, Niederreiter, that's bad. Looks bad, but then he trades out Griffin Reinhart and gets Barzal and other pieces back. He trades out Ryan Strome and turns him into Jordan Eberle. He's a smart guy, and I don't think he gets the proper amount of credit. So Islanders fans have said it for a while. Hopefully you guys are happy with this video. I've tried to be fair, and I didn't go into this with any expectation, so I'm as surprised as you guys are to read all this stuff and to realize, yeah, Garth Snow's a pretty good GM. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.